All right. Look at that, Jason. Like Frankenstein's monster, we are alive.
That's excellent. Happy to be alive again. I reanimate just for these conversations.
So look at this. This is fantastic. So we are streaming live on YouTube. And after some jiggery pokery, I was able to get us streaming live on Facebook. So welcome to everybody on YouTube watching us. Welcome to everybody on Facebook. For those that are on Facebook, just so you're aware, I'll be monitoring comments on the Facebook page. For some reason, I can't do it here in this little console I'm looking at. So if you see me look to the side, it just means I'm not ignoring anybody. It just means I'm looking at your comments, and I'll chime in there. What brings us here, Jason?
Ardnamurchan.
Ardnamurchan.
That's what brings us here. And this bottle in particular, which I've got a mirrored camera and I'm just aiming for the lens. Ardnamurchan 5. Still available. Few bottles still at singlecastnation.com. So as we're having this conversation, don't be afraid to head on over there. Shipping is delightful. Oh, delightful.
Yeah. I mean, I obviously I brought this, but in case I run out, just because I love Ardnamurchan so much, I got a bottle of AD here just to make sure my whistle is always whetted.
Just in case we run out, I've got a little global Ardnamurchan from Singlecast Nation up my sleeve.
So
just in case we run out.
Why don't we bring on Mr. Connell McKenzie, who is the sales director at Ardnamurchan Distillery. There he is.
Good evening, Connell.
Good evening, gentlemen. How are you?
Oh, very well, thank you. How are you keeping?
I'm well. It's apart from the weather being absolutely horrendous up in the north of Scotland, it's been a nice wee week off with the family. I mean, when I say horrendous, I'm talking 3-4 degrees and raining sideways.
Oh.
So it's not good. It's April 3rd now, you know. It's we need to move past this.
I had the audacity to complain about the weather on today's episode of One Nation Under Whiskey. So I was complaining about the Virginia weather. It was a little too close to Scottish weather, but you're describing something even worse.
Yeah, so I'm just outside Inverness in the little sleepy seaside town of Nairn, and it is blowing a hoolie.
Well, we'll get into this bottle in just a second, but you'll like this, Connell. My kids' soccer game got cancelled yesterday because kickoff was at 5:30, and it rained between 1 o'clock and 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and that was all right. Game's a bogey. See everybody tomorrow. I was like, it's a wee drap of rain. Like, get out.
It's I've got to go and play golf tomorrow. Believe it or not, it's to do with the Worshipful Distillers golf tournament, and if it's not played by the end of this week, I get maybe I just shouldn't show up. I get a bye, so I get to go to the next round. I'm up against James Campbell, who runs the Spirit of Speyside Festival, or he was this year. So we're playing quite a difficult golf course, and I'm not looking forward to it because it's going to be just waterlogged. It's going to be terrible.
Oh, it sounds miserable. Cancel it. Game's a bogey.
Game's a bogey, exactly.
So here we go. We've got Pincus saying, "Giddy up, let the education begin."
So there's a spot I would like that education to begin, and I was actually my only time at the distillery was May of 2014, and if memory serves, you would have been right on the cusp of beginning distillation. And so for you, Connell, were you with Ardnamurchan in 2014? What was the beginning of Spirit like, or what have you heard? And when did you join up with them?
So I didn't join the company until 2018. But my whiskey journey started in around 2014, 2015, and it was with a company. I'm obviously from Scotland, but I found whiskey properly as a career in New Zealand, of all places. So I started with a company called Whiskey Galore in Christchurch, which is run by the wonderful Michael Fraser Milne and his family, Siona and Stella. And they are, when you mention whiskey of any description, be it bourbon, single malt Scotch, Irish, it doesn't matter. There is only one place you're going to, and that is Whiskey Galore. So yeah, I started there, and that's when I got into it. But yeah, in regards to the Ardnamurchan in 2014, we would have been very much experimenting that summer until we were comfortable where we were at, and even then we started tweaking other bits and pieces. So I'm seeing now, pulling through, you know, our mature stock lists, you know, different filling strengths, you know, different types of woods, etc., etc. So we were still finding our feet for the first couple of months, finding our way, I suppose, with our distillate.
Did that, just while Jason is trying his hardest to swallow the liquid, what does that look like? I got a little fresh. What does that look like from the perspective of a distillery that produces peated and unpeated whiskey on and off? Was it two different sessions of tweaking, or were you able to tweak for both spirit styles, peated and unpeated?
Yeah, good question. The 2014 was all unpeated. You know, we started officially in the end of July, August 2014. And the whole of 14, that half year, was unpeated completely. We started peating in 2015. And yeah, I wouldn't be able to comment fully on whether we started messing about with cap points and stuff on the peated spirit. I mean, at that point, we were still being advised by the late, great Dr. Jim Swan. Alex and Jim were working, you know, yeah, absolutely. And, you know, they were working side by side trying to get it right. We always wanted to produce, you know, he had a very decent style, obviously, of the distilleries he's advised. They have a very, you know, it's quite a similar approach to how the distillate is made. But we wanted to, with his permission, tweak a few bits and pieces. Well, I say we, it was Alex. He really wanted to harness a really oily, viscous spirit that was true of a West Coast style of whiskey. And with Jim's blessing, we managed to, I think, pull that off.
And that's one of the things we've been talking about as Joshua struggles to swallow this whiskey. As we've released this cask, we've been talking about this Ardnamurchan style and this rugged West Coast, rugged Highland, rugged coastal. Like, how much, obviously you're talking about the early Jim Swan days, but how much is the distillery team thinking about old style whiskey or rugged Highland whiskey? Like, what's the thought process, even today, as you're 10 years in?
I mean, our sort of methods haven't really changed. I mean, our production team all live on the peninsula. They're local to the area. You know, I mean, you've been there, so you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's not exactly an accessible place. So they are making the best quality spirit they can, day in, day out, to the spec that we decided, I suppose, in 2015 on how to do cap points, etc. And for me, I think the applause goes to the production team, because when I'm in the warehouse looking at casks, be it unpeated bourbon, unpeated sherry, peated sherry. Yeah, okay, there's, you know, we all know the single cask game. That's why we love it. You know, sister casks can be, you know, chalk and cheese, but we've still got that very much DNA running through our whiskey, and that is just down to production being so consistent and how they operate. The other thing I would just touch on there is that we're putting everything, we do everything to spec. We're very diligent and consistent with that. However, I think the style that we harness, I'm not going to mention the T word. We're not going to go down terroir. Don't worry. We're not going to start talking about that. It's a cool theory that we've kicked around a wee bit, and that theory is reduction water. And I'm not talking about obviously production water that we use in our stills and all the rest of it. I'm simply talking about when we take off still at 69-70% ABV and we take it through to our filling store, from that percentage down to 63.5, which we all know is the industry standard.
Mm-hmm.
So that's 6.5% or whatever it is, 5.5%. That we're using water straight from the hills of Ardnamurchan. So straight from the hills through the peat bog, through a very light UV filter, which doesn't really do anything to it, if I'm honest. I mean, if you've been on the West Coast, guys, you know, if you run yourself a bath or you have a glass of water, it's brown, right? It's brown. And it can be different levels of brown depending where you are. And I could line you up a glass of water from Virginia, Connecticut, Hawaii, Christchurch, New Zealand, and Ardnamurchan, and you would be able to dictate the different water, right? So I think that's where that saline, rugged, coastal, dare I say it? No, I'm not even going to say it. I've had enough of that word. Maritime. That saline quality. I think that the reduction water has a part to play in that.
Oh, okay.
Interesting. That's good. We'll carry that forward.
It's a theory.
Well, sounds plausible. I'll take it. Let's move on, assuming that that's fact. But it's been an interesting comment when we're taking this bottle around and doing tastings with it, or people, and by this bottle I mean our sherry cask, which is unpeated. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of people who are saying, that this isn't peated, but there's an earthy quality to it. There's a salinity to it, and it really takes them aback. Like it's kind of nice to them, and people are saying, is Ardnamurchan great in sherry? Do they do well in other casks as well? And I mean, my opinion, what I think about Ardnamurchan in our private conversations, but yeah, here we go to Chris's question here. What do you think shows off your house style best?
For me, I can't get away from peated in bourbon cask.
Okay.
I'm going through that process anyway in my whiskey drinking, where I am in my journey, I suppose, is I'm now really refill bourbon is where I'm at. If I'm enjoying something, I obviously with the Adelphi side of the business, you get to drink some pretty cool stuff. So if you get something with, over 20, 25 years of age and refill cask, for me, it's hard to beat. But for me, Ardnamurchan cask strength, that style, mainly bourbon casks, mainly peated, that for me is what I'm really connecting with. However, and I think that Ardnamurchan can perform well in sherry and bourbon, and of course we've been looking. We've got other, and that's the traditional cask styles, right? So you've got, it can handle a PX, it can handle a very active PX cask, it can handle a refill Oloroso cask. I think the distillates can stand up to that, and that's very important, because you don't want to just release wood juice. You've got to have some distillate character behind that. And that pleases us all very immensely, that the spirit can take that. But, we've got some other bits and pieces in our warehouses that it's going well with, we've got those Champagne Barriques, which is the Paul Lanois release.
Yes.
In fact, what are we on now? We're on Wednesday. So on Monday, we've got Julian and Sarah Lanois coming over from Reims. They're flying over to do the blending session with us on Monday. So we get to do the next batch of Paul Lanois. So, and that works really well. So that's our unpeated spirit. And it's re-racked into these Chardonnay Barrique for 15 months or so. And they started their lives in bourbon barrels and unpeated spirit. So there's various different ways that Ardnamurchan can look like. But for me, the one that I'm really resonating with just now is that just a bourbon barrel, really.
So you mentioned a moment ago about we're all in this single cask world. You know, we see the value. We know what we're drawn to in this single cask world. And then it comes to picking casks and wandering a warehouse. And Jess was the lucky one from our team who got to come through to Ardnamurchan and isolate some samples to bring away. And then we made the selections. But she tells this great story about being on site with you. And I don't know if it's the sales director in you or the whiskey lover in you. And at one moment you'd said, if you don't bottle that cask, I will. and I don't want to get into the whys, the whats, and the wherefores and who did bottle it, but I do want to ask you the question, what was it about any given cask where you say that's going out into the world? That's a single cask that will represent Ardnamurchan.
For me, it's the nose. So
interesting.
It's the nose, which is hard in a warehouse. It's hard to really focus in a warehouse, but when something jumps out in a glass in a warehouse and grabs you, gets your attention, when you've been nosing whiskey for maybe, I don't know, an hour already that day, and you know you've got something reasonably special. What I will say about when Jess's visit was, we were at it a while. Some days you're lucky and you'll go and you'll strike gold, and you know you'll leave quite. Everyone's happy. You found a cask. We were at it for a good long time. With this is good, but can we find something better? And I was more than happy to. I mean, we had all day, but we took our time. We did take our time, and we were spitting. We were being very, very responsible. We were looking to find these casks, and I do remember finding. And I think there was actually the two that Jess left with were, in my opinion, the two best. I think I've already bottled one of the other ones already. I need to check where that's gone, but I'm sure that we bottled the sister cask as a single cask already. I don't know about the other one, but yeah, I think a sterling job was done.
What surprised me about our ultimate selections, this is very strange for us. Neither Ardnamurchan was peated, and that to me spoke to the rugged nature of the spirit. That potentially speaks to your working hypothesis here of, you know, the reduction water, but it's such a good expressive spirit as is. I'm excited to ultimately get some peated Ardnamurchan out to the nation, but the fact that we could open the doors with a couple of unpeated offerings, one in bourbon, one in Oloroso sherry, I think really speaks to the strength of that spirit there. So good to have you with them.
I agree. I think, you know, the fact that our unpeated spirit has still got that you've touched it, you've nailed it, earthiness. It's not peated. I mean, and it's not even like we finished a peated run and then moved on to unpeated spirit. We've actually got two sets of pipe work. So we've got two tanks. So it's not even that. But it has got an earthiness to it. There's no doubt.
Yeah.
You have set the table beautifully for two questions that are sitting in the YouTube comments.
Oh, in the YouTube. Why don't you bring them up? I've got some questions in Facebook that I want to get to as well. So why don't we tend to YouTube and Facebook folk? We're going to get to your questions.
Okay, here we come. So Ian Bruce, who's actually joining us from Australia. You started out talking about New Zealand. Here's Ian from, he is Scots through and through, moved to Australia. And are the non-peated and peated runs processed at specific times throughout the year? And what type of peat is used? Before we can bring that back up, but piggybacking on that, Chris Sebastian again says, what type of cleaning process is done in between peated and unpeated runs? So all of those questions. There's the Ian Bruce one first. Are they run at specific times a year?
No. I would love to be able to tell you that it was a clean 6 months peated, clean 6 months unpeated. No, we are dictated by barley schedules. So we will put our wish list into the maltster. So our barley we use, I think we're up to, I always get this percentage wrong, but I think it's about 58 to 60% now of all Fife barley. So obviously you cannot grow barley in Ardnamurchan. It's basically a extinct volcano that came across all those years ago and attached itself on to Scotland. But yeah, we are we don't have fields of barley growing, but we do have great access to barley in Fife, which is home to our managing director Alex Bruce. Maybe they're related to Ian Bruce, probably. His family farm. We've got a contract there for about 60% of what we have, and then we simply ask the maltsters. We use Baird's in Inverness, and we use Crisp in Alloa, and they provide our spec barley. Our barley is peated generally to 30 ppm. That's barley spec, and we heavily peat once a year as well, which is around about 80 parts per million. So we've been doing that for the last 3 years. So yeah, basically a long-winded answer to no, we're dictated by barley, basically.
Gotcha. God, that's good. And then the follow-up, the piggyback from Seabass. And how do you clean now that you're dictated by barley? Are you cleaning in between? What's that looking like?
So as I said, we've got two different sets of
that's what you said.
Of pipework and tank. So yeah, we obviously rigorously clean our distillery, but we don't need to clean like most distilleries would have to clean fully to move from peated to unpeated. We don't need to do it like that. So
then the peated and the heavy peat are on the same system. Do you then have any back and forth there? Is there any need to, if not clean, run a system post-production on those?
Do you know what? It's a really good question, and it's a question that I've never even thought to ask myself. That I would suggest, and I know that there's a chance that Alistair Mackay, who's one of our production operators, he's, I think, having a dram with Carl Crafts over at Ardnamurchan tonight, and they said they were going to tune in.
Yeah, so Carl has said hi.
Hey, Carl.
So he can maybe ask Alistair if he's beside him there. Do we clean between heavily peated and peated runs? Who knows?
Awesome.
We might get an answer.
A few more drams, it might be a more colourful answer.
I think they're probably fairly few drams deep already, I would suggest.
Good. So one of the questions that came in on Facebook was about the ppm and the barley, which you've answered, 30 ppm. So that's great. John Bourne, who's out of Minnesota. You may have met him.
I do know John Bourne. I met him with Melissa. Yeah, he was in that crazy Irish. Was it an Irish bar? It was weird. Yeah, weird guy. A Scotsman who wrote a book.
Yeah. Well, anyway, he's saying hello, and he's actually just picked up the bottle of this now, and he's including it into a larger Ardnamurchan tasting, which is really cool. And then there seems to be a little bit of Merlin's Rest. That's it. He just said Merlin's Rest Pub. There you go. So Colin Mayers, who we lovingly call Colin the pluralized Mayers,
New Zealand,
who's also a Scotsman, but he, instead of moving down to Australia, moved to New Zealand, and he's with Wahiki Distillery. And he had asked, did you expect back at the start of Ardnamurchan that you would have the success that you now have, especially amongst the whiskey geeks?
Thanks, Colin. No, I know Colin well. I don't know. I think all we've ever tried to do is make good whiskey. We are pretty much all of us in the team, whether you're sales and marketing, the managing director, the board, the production team, the bottling team, we're for the most part whiskey enthusiasts.
Yeah,
it's our drink, and we enjoy it. We love, we're so passionate about it. So I think that probably comes across, even if we didn't want it to come across. I don't know. I mean, so I think, and the way we make whiskey, setting ourselves up to do peated and unpeated. Yeah, start off traditional. That's what we did. Alex is very traditional in his outlook, but he's also, modern and wants to push the boat with champagne casks. I'll never forget the time he told me he bought these. I nearly fell off my chair, and so we're pushing the envelope where it makes sense, but we're also trying to be true to whiskey making techniques. And we didn't want to make a pretty whiskey. We wanted to make a rich, viscous, rugged Highland West Coaster. And I think that is appealing to people who want that style of whiskey. We wanted it to be readily available. So we didn't go in at like 50,000 litres per year. We went in at a reasonable amount of whiskey production. And, the last 3 years, we've sort of averaged 400,000 litres of alcohol. That's quite a lot for an independent single malt. I think we're doing, hopefully, everything to please the whiskey community. We're very transparent, as you guys know. We've got nothing to hide, and I think maybe that's what we could put down to success, and pricing probably as well as it comes into it.
And if cleanliness is next to godliness, then this has been sent in from Carl at Ardnamurchan Distillery. He had previously said Alistair Mackay has left the room, but then there is rigorous cleaning between peated and heavily peated, regardless of the order of distillation. So that's an interesting answer.
Thanks, Carl.
One of the things that I absolutely what is this? Hold on. Success could be measured with awards, including the OSWA. What's an OSWA? Old School.
The Oswald's, the Online Scotch Whisky Awards, which was started about 3 years ago by Roy Duff from Aquavita channel and Ralphie.
Sure. Yep.
And Ralphie. They started it, so you can't even nominate yourself for that. You're just basically nominated by the public, by the whiskey community, if you will. So we picked up. We've done reasonably well in those awards, and it's been lovely to hear that.
Yeah. The last thing that I wanted to say, really about your spirit, is really how surprising I find that no matter what cask I've tasted it in, and that's PX Oloroso, the champagne cask, which was in my top 3 whiskeys of last year. I just fell in love with that one. Bourbon, etc. No matter what cask your distillate is in, Ardnamurchan is never hidden. Even with the Ardnamurchan bottling, which was Oloroso and PX, you think that would flood the spirit, but Ardnamurchan, the spirit, just stood loud and proud. It's such a fantastic bottling.
Hey, listen, you and I can take credit for that, Joshua.
There you go. but is that back to that initial intent of having, Jason and I refer to it as this desire for having an old school style whiskey that can really hold its own, and not get flooded with, a lot of modern distilleries, especially Jim Swan distilleries, tend to have a lighter style.
Yeah.
And you did consult with Jim Swan, but you tend to have, or Jim Swan consulted with you still tend to have a heavier style by comparison to some of the others. And that's not knocking them, it's just showing a point of difference.
No, absolutely not. It's not knocking them at all. And we are making Ardnamurchan whiskey. We want people to lift their glass of whiskey, whether they're tasting it blind or they know what it is, but it's confirming to them that that's what they were expecting. I think we are harnessing that, not unique, or is it unique? I think it is maybe unique. Style. A lot of people have compared us to many different makes out there. I'm not going to repeat them, but it's nice to be. It's all complimentary. So we're just doing our own thing out in the West Coast. We're isolated beyond belief. We can get our heads down, make the best stuff we can, fill it into the best casks that we can get our hands on, and let time let time do its thing. And talking about time, that's 10 years this summer.
Yeah, there you go.
So
congratulations.
Yeah, listen, thank you. It's not. It's all down to the team being there from the get go, building the foundations to where we are now. It's been a hell of a ride, hell of a roller coaster ride, and I just can't believe, honestly, that Ardnamurchan is 10 years old this year. It's quite
I can't believe I haven't been there since 2014.
That was 10 years ago.
All right. We need to be headed down here. There's one last question from Ian Bruce that I wanted to pop in here. And he's curious, are you using STR casks like some of the other Jim Swan distilleries are using?
Yeah, we don't have one STR cask in our warehouse.
Okay.
Again, it's nothing against anyone who uses STR casks. I've got absolutely nothing against them. Alex just wanted to move on to that more traditional approach of ex-bourbon barrels and ex-sherry casks. And the last 5-6 years, I suppose, we've been looking at port pipes and champagne barriques and sauterne casks and rum casks and all sorts, but in small quantities for just small batch releases, but focusing on that bourbon, ex-bourbon and sherry style. We don't. I don't know, STR. I'm not saying never say never, but it's just not something we've looked at yet.
Yeah. Gotcha.
Yeah,
cool.
That was good. I'm glad that question got asked. That's an answer that I like. I like hearing that.
Well, a few things. We've promised people that these events would be a half an hour, so we want to stick to that. Also, we realize it's 10:30 p.m. your time.
Thanks for staying up late, Con.
Just really quickly before we get out of here, I just want to remind people, Monday, 22nd of April, we're going to have Simon Brooking, 8 p.m. Eastern time, streaming both on YouTube and on Facebook. And we're going to be going over Ardmore, specifically the Ardmore distillery, which doesn't get talked about much. So we're looking forward to that. And then I desperately need you all to just freaking subscribe to our YouTube channel. Just do it. Enough dilly-dallying. Just hit that subscribe button, hit the little bell, and then you'll get notified of new videos and all that. Jason, is there anything that I've missed?
Just how much we appreciate Connell being here. We already covered that one. The Ardmore conversation is going to be about coal-fired stills. You were talking tonight about tradition, Connell. And so kind of a nice little dip into the historical past there. Please go look us up, singlecastnation.com, available 1:30. And if you're out in the wider global world, go have a look for this one. Jess was instrumental with Connell for being at the warehouse and sampling casks. Ardnamerica, if you're in America, is absolutely cracking. We drank the shit out of it in Elgin and had a blast drinking it. So lots of Ardnamurchan opportunities. 10 years in, plenty more to come. So this will not be our last conversation, Connell. And sincere thanks for joining us on this one.
Absolute pleasure, gents. Thank you very much.
All right.
Good luck with the golf tomorrow.
Yeah, good luck.
I'm dreading it, honestly.
Cheers. And cheers to all the recognizable names in the comments. We love your support and we love the nation. So cheers to all.
Cheers.